Morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. So I'd like to start by providing a brief recap of the incident yesterday that we're currently investigating. At about 12:11 p.m. yesterday, October 14th, 2019, the Roseville Police Department received a call from the Mount Shasta Police Department reporting they had detained a suspect involved in a homicide that took place in Roseville. The adult male claimed to have murdered individuals at his residence in Roseville. Another victim was inside his vehicle at the Mount Shasta Police Department in Siskiyou County, and other victims were at an apartment in Roseville. Officers were dispatched to the apartment complex in the 1800 block of Junction Boulevard, and they confirmed 3 additional victims were found deceased at the scene. We completed an extensive interview with the suspect, and based on this interview, we believe that he is the sole suspect in the 4 homicides. Based on the information we have thus far, it appears the victims are members of the suspect's family. Pending positive identification notification from the Placer County Sheriff Coroner's Office, we're not releasing the identity of the victims. We can confirm the 4 victims consisted of 2 adults and 2 juveniles. We will release further identifying information in conjunction with Placer County. We can identify the suspect as Shankar Hangud, who is a 53-year-old male out of Roseville, and you'll see his photograph over here to my left. He was taken into custody yesterday by the Mount Shasta Police Department. The suspect has since been transported to and booked into the Placer County Jail, charged with 4 counts of murder. He'll be prosecuted in Placer County. It appears the victims were killed by this suspect over a few days' time span. We're still working to put that timeline together. We can confirm the victim he had in his vehicle in Mount Shasta was an adult male of East Indian descent. At this time, we are not releasing a motive for these crimes, as this remains an active investigation. We're continuing to work in coordination with the Mount Shasta Police Department, Placer County District Attorney's Office, Siskiyou County District Attorney's Office, and Siskiyou County Sheriff Coroner's Office. Now at this time, I'm going to ask for the public's assistance with the following information. Our detectives are still working to create a timeline for this series of homicides. Within the last week, this suspect left his home in Roseville with 1 adult male victim of East Indian descent. They drove away in his vehicle. They drove from Roseville, traveled to unknown places in Northern California, and ended up in Mount Shasta. If you have seen this suspect accompanied by an adult male of East Indian descent, please contact the Roseville Police Department at the number posted to my left. We're still actively working to contact family to notify next of kin. If you have information about this family, we are asking to please contact the Roseville Police Department at the same number. So I'd like to close by just saying a couple things here. So Roseville is an extremely safe, family-oriented community. This incident has touched the lives of many throughout our area. This is an evolving investigation that's less than 24 hours underway. We appreciate everyone's patience as we work to share more information as it becomes available. Before you leave today, we have a sign-up sheet in the back of the room. If you'd like to receive a digital copy of the suspect's photo, as well as a digital copy of the suspect vehicle, we're happy to provide that to you, and just leave your information in the back of the room. At this time, I can take just a few questions from you. Yes, ma'am.
Just the time frame from when this began to when this ended, and the best understanding of what happened when.
We really can't provide that timeline. We're estimating that this could go as far back as a week, but it very well could be just several days ago, and that's one of the challenges that we're facing, is trying to identify the start of this timeline from when the suspect left his residence in Roseville and then traveled through Northern California to end up in Mount Shasta.
So just to be clear, when you're talking about a week ago, we're not sure if he was gone a week ago and then came back, or if that was by that time when he left, all the killings had already happened.
Yes, we're not sure at what point he left his residence to go north. We don't know if he came back and then drove out again. I think a lot of this information is going to be pending the results of the autopsies from the coroner's office, and we should have a timeline, created better at that particular point when we get those results.
Sergeant, were these teenagers, or were they younger than that for these juveniles?
Yeah, because this is still pending the notification from the coroner's office, the information that we feel comfortable releasing at this time, that 2 of the victims were adults and that 2 of the victims were juveniles. And because we don't have positive identification, we just don't feel comfortable releasing any more specific identifying information, because we really don't know at this time.
And who was it that gave you the tip, or how did you receive the tip that this had happened?
So the suspect himself drove to the Mount Shasta Police Department with one of the victims in his car and made a confession to them to start off this investigation.
And he gave you the exact address?
And he provided the exact address to the Mount Shasta Police Department. They called us and gave us the information, and we drove to the apartment complex and did a welfare check and found the other 3 deceased people.
Prior to that, were there any calls for service at that apartment, for example, maybe someone who missing people who had been walking, they expect to see in and out of there, a smell or anything unusual?
Our crime analysis unit is working on putting together that information. I don't have that readily available to provide to you.
And do we know what the suspect, was it the suspect, in fact, that also gave the information about the transport? You mentioned that transport about a week ago of this other person. Was it the suspect that provided that information, or where did that come from?
Your question's a little unclear to me.
The transport, you said that you believe that over a week ago there was someone else that went with this suspect somewhere, perhaps coming back, or not sure of the timeline, of course, but how did the information come about the other person being with him?
I understand your question now. The adult male of East Indian descent that was located deceased in the suspect vehicle at Mount Shasta Police Department, the suspect provided that information to law enforcement there. Does that answer your question?
It does. One other question. Yesterday we talked to some folks who live in that apartment complex. They mentioned seeing perhaps officers, not sure who, but in hazmat type suits, in white suits. Any reason why they wouldn't have been dressed that way?
I personally did not see the scene, other than knowing that there's 3 deceased humans in there, and I would imagine that for evidentiary purposes and to not contaminate the scene, that's probably a standard protocol to dress in those suits as they enter into that environment.
One other question. Yesterday we also heard that there was a police helicopter overhead, that there was some announcement that was being made asking someone to come out, that they were saved. What, if anything, does that have to do with this investigation?
I believe the incident that you're talking about that was within the same time frame is that we had a report of a missing juvenile, and the helicopter was helping us alert neighbors and people in the area to keep a lookout for this juvenile. The juvenile was found and was safe and brought back home.
And does that have anything to do with this case?
Has no connection at all with this case.
Do we know what the suspect's mental health was when he confessed to all of this? What is that mental health like right now?
In terms of the way the suspect, the way he acted, the way the conversation went, that is information that's going to be part of this investigation. That is something that I don't want to speculate on, and I cannot release that type of information to you at this time.
The 4 victims are part of his immediate family?
We believe that based upon the information that we have, that those 4 victims are family members. However, we have to wait for confirmed notification from the Placer County Coroner's Office to really identify the names of these people and how close of a family members that they actually are to the suspect.
Did the suspect give any indication of why he decided to come forth with all this information?
In terms of anything that the suspect provided the detectives during the interview, I'm not going to elaborate on that, and I don't want to speculate as to what he said to the investigators, as I don't have that information. So I'm sorry I don't have anything to share regarding that.
Does this guy have a prior criminal history at all?
The criminal history is something I believe is protected. I don't know that information right now, but I think that even if I did know that information, I would not be able to provide that to you.
Do you have a
Talk about how
motive
they
yet?
died.
Is there a motive?
The question was, is there a motive?
Do you know a motive why he did this?
The motive, I think, is something that you're going to find that comes out as a result of the investigation. Again, folks, this is, like I said, less than 24 hours underway. There are crime scenes that have been processed. The suspect has been interviewed, but there's a lot of stones that have been unturned that these detectives still need to look into before making a real determination about what the motivation was, what led the suspect to do the things that he did.
How are
Was
the
the
victims
deceased
killed?
person found in the car, did the person have like a gunshot, or what kind of injury did he have?
In terms of cause of death, that's information that we're going to have to wait for the information from the Placer County Coroner's Office. So when they release that information to us, then we will work with the Placer County Coroner's Office and we will provide that information.
Can you tell us if there was
Let's talk
visible
about
trauma
the
though?
let's talk
Like,
about the
were they,
suspect himself.
looked like they'd been beaten up or any visible ones, anything like that?
I'm not going to comment on the state of any of the victims that were located.
Captain Simon, can we talk about the suspect himself? What descent is he of? How long did he live in Roseville? Where did he work? Is there any information about him specifically that you can release?
More identifying information about the suspect will be made available to you that our PIO is going to put out with the additional information regarding the vehicle and the suspect's photograph, and he'll provide a little bit more detailed information about the suspect himself.
Can you remember
His
anything like this
vehicle, did he
happening in
own that
Roseville?
vehicle?
Anything of this magnitude, this involving this many people?
The question was, can I remember anything of this magnitude happening in our jurisdiction? Nothing comes to my mind that I can think back of something of this magnitude happening in the city of Roseville. It's not to say that it hasn't happened, but I don't recall any of this, and it's had an effect on the community. It's had an effect on the first responders and everybody involved. It's just a very sad, sad situation.
Two more questions. Two more questions.
Is there any reason why he may have gone to Mount Shasta? Does he have any connections up there that you guys know about?
So that is a piece of the puzzle that we are still looking into and don't have the answer to. And I have the same question that you do.
Any weapons? Did you guys were able to grab any weapons? Did he turn any weapons in?
To my knowledge, there was no, well, when you say weapons, I think that can be a very broad definition. I don't have any knowledge that there was any firearms located in any of the crime scenes, but
Last question.
Sorry, Captain, can you clarify, was any portion of the crime committed outside of the apartment? Were all the people killed inside the apartment? And other than the car and the apartment, is there any other crime scene we're talking about here?
the information that we have is that initially there was 2 crime scenes. One inside the apartment in Roseville, and the other one is the vehicle that was at the Mount Shasta Police Department. And then detectives are trying to backtrack to find if there are any other crime scenes along the path or whatever direction that the suspect took to get to the Mount Shasta Police Department. So there potentially could be other crime scenes, but that is definitely something that we're looking into.
So to be clear, the person.
Where's the list? Where's the digital?
Always pass.
Right here.
Yes.
Are you? Okay. Everybody got their close up?
Yeah, call it. Good. Just making sure.
Jeremy?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, let me get the mic out of there.
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
I haven't even called in on mine yet. You haven't.